This is delightful. I'm so glad we came here. Feel those vibrations at Camp Video Games. Well, hey there, hi there, howdy there, campers. Welcome to Camp Video Games. This is a podcast that reviews video games and their multimedia adaptations. What does that mean? It means sometimes there's a video game, but then it's also a movie, or it's a book, or it's a show. I'm Sean, and with me is Junior Counselor Josh.
Hello, I am Junior Camp Counselor Josh, and as always, I need to remind the campers of some safety things. Look, I know it's become a cool, fun thing to see who can go the fastest through the hiking route through the Hyrule Woods, okay? But here's the thing. When you're hiking, you got to watch where your feet are going. We got kids tripping. We got bumping knees. I know y'all want to rank S-Class in the fastest run through the woods, but just watch where your feet are stepping. I need eyes down and ahead. You just got to be checking in. That's all, you know.
Live fast, die young, kids.
Oh, well, no, I'd love it if the children lived long enough that they did not become an insurance liability for us.
Just make sure you're paid up before you die.
Yeah.
Patreon.com/campvideogames. Anyway, today we are talking about the Nintendo World Championships NES Edition. I don't like it when people call it NES for some reason. It just, I don't know. NES.
It's not a great word, NES.
Nintendo Entertainment System.
Yeah. Holy moly. What a weird, cool thing Nintendo threw out here. We are recording this episode 2 weeks after this game came out, which I mentioned because it's a quote unquote live service game where there's new weekly challenges and content. So there's only been 1 week worth of challenges so far. And we'll talk more about what that means.
Yes.
But so this is like a brand new thing as we're recording it. Not something I ever anticipated Nintendo putting together. I'm a little in love. I'm a little fascinated. It's, I don't know. Make me stop talking about it for a second so we can get into some specifics.
So if you've not played the Nintendo World Championships NES Edition, it's a collection of 13 different games from the NES library. And it's a collection of different speed run challenges. What's speed running? It means you're not having fun with games anymore and you're just trying to perfect something.
That means you're not having fun anymore. That's very well put. The
joy of discovery has left the sparkle in your eye, and now it's just how do I robotize my leisure time.
You know what's funny about that is I feel I see where you're coming from, but for me personally, it's the opposite. It has ignited fun in some of these 35-year-old games for me, because I've played them so much that I am enjoying having them turned into weird little time challenges.
Yeah.
So I don't know how this game came to be beyond the fact that the Nintendo World Championship was a thing loosely through the 90s. And we should...
and we're also talking about the 1989 film The Wizard starring Fred Savage.
Duh. Okay, we forgot to mention that at the top. That's our multimedia tie-in for this game. This is not branded or marketed as like relevant to the film The Wizard, but The Wizard was about a not official Nintendo World Championship. We'll talk about that with the movie, but essentially what the Nintendo World Championships were in the 80s and 90s.
To like the pop culture zeitgeist, The Wizard introduced the idea of esports to some degree.
Yeah, it's like a lot of fascinating stuff.
Yeah, but I could also see why Nintendo would distance itself from The Wizard at this point.
I don't know. Anyway, so let's talk about the game a little bit for a while. So yeah, it is a pile of like micro speedrun challenges. And the fact that like Nintendo clued into the idea that this can be a game is, I don't know. I just think it's wildly exciting because I've been a fan of games done quick.
Yeah.
For a long time.
Me too.
Like,
I love watching Super Metroid speedruns. I love watching Resident Evil speedruns. I love watching Super Mario speedruns.
I love Mario speedruns.
Josh, you're a good Mario speedrunner yourself.
I wouldn't go that far.
You're better than me.
For the YouTube viewers, I've been since the game came out. The way it works is you can play a series of challenges that you unlock for each game, and for Mario 1, the final, what they call legend difficulty, is to speedrun Mario 1. I'm at 7 minutes 44 seconds 46 7:44:46 anyway is my time right now. And it's funny because I used to fall asleep to like games done quick videos.
Sure.
Because there's just something about like the tone of the commentators on those, especially like longer games or like where they have to describe like glitches that they're using. Like there's always just like some really calm guy that's like, okay, so what you're going to see here is he's going to have to do a frame perfect input on the backflip that Link does when he's fighting Goma. And it's just like very soothing. And
that just warmed my heart.
And like this past week, since I unlocked this challenge in this game, like most nights of the week, I've been like, I'm just gonna do a run of Mario, just see if I can take a few seconds off my time,
just to take the edge off.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm having a lot of fun with this game.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Let's talk about like just
let's go through the roster of games.
Yeah. We can pull it up for the YouTube viewers.
Yes. Oh, look at all those S's.
Yeah, this is borderline just going to be an ad for this game from my perspective. But yeah, so you get to like you start with a very basic challenge on each game with Super Mario Brothers, the original Zelda, Metroid, Donkey Kong. Then we start slipping Kid Icarus. I don't know how many Kid Icarus speedrunner heads there are out there.
You know, the more esoteric, the more niche. Like, there's definitely Kid Icarus speedrunners.
I mean, I'm sure there are, but like you'll see. I have not even unlocked all the challenges for it yet.
Well, the thing, just to talk a little bit about Kid Icarus, it's because it's an early Metroid style game, and in the sense that you know, there's a small amount of exploration and platforming, and you know, it separated itself from like Zelda and Mario in terms of like what's a platform game, what's an adventure game. Mm-hmm. And Kid Icarus it's a fine game, but it doesn't hold up as well as others.
Yeah. I had never touched Kid Icarus before I got this game, and it's so funny how difficult a game in the setting of this is if you have not played it before.
Yeah.
Unlike Super Mario Brothers 1, which I've played the living crap out of since I was a chibis, and now as an adult, I played Mario 35 for the year and a half it was out. I think I put about 85 hours into it, which is literally just Mario 1 with weird twists on it.
Props.
Yeah. So back to the games that we've got. Super Mario 2, a.k.a. Doki Doki Panic, which... I actually really love this game.
I love that game.
I played the heck out of this as well.
What's the Birdo challenge?
It's just beat Birdo.
Oh, okay.
And it is that's a good point to like bring up is like what exactly are the challenges in this game? And you and I had the opportunity to play couch competitive, which is like really where this game shined for me. We only did it for like half an hour.
Yeah.
But that made me go, oh, this game's fun if you have friends.
So if you're playing the World Championship NES Edition single player, I think the real object of the game is to get S's or the best possible scores as possible. I mean that's the point of this game in general is just to do your best.
Yeah, but, and there are plenty of unlockable, like very cutely designed pins that you can get. For each challenge,
this gives that game. If you're like me and you're typically more of a single player kind of gamer, this game has a finite lifespan.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
But where this game really, really shines through is couch multiplayer.
Yeah,
like this is an incredible party game.
Yeah, it's it's like takes the chaos of WarioWare, but puts it in very familiar setting and context.
Yes. Let's get through the rest of the games before we get too wooey.
Okay. So we got Mario 2, Excite Bike.
Classic.
I've never been good at, but I played a ton of.
Yeah. I liked the level creation for Excite Bike. That was so
very
incredible.
Good game. Ice Climbers?
Nope. Most people only know them as Super Smash Bros.
Couple things in here like people will only know from Smash.
Yes.
Balloon Fight, I'm familiar with. I've played maybe a little bit like at an arcade as a like wee child.
Yeah.
But
it plays like Joust.
Yeah, you'll again if you watch the video version of this, you'll see I've not unlocked all of Balloon Fight yet. And then the sort of Mario 3 is here, which is for me mentally tied to watching The Wizard a lot as a child. I'm like, this is the one.
Yes.
And if you scroll through, if you have the game or if you're watching, it has the most challenges out of any of the games. The Adventures of Link, which is
Zelda 2,
which I found interesting that like I owned Zelda 2 after I beat the original Zelda. I was like, I gotta have Zelda 2. And before Super Nintendo and Link to the Past came out, it was like it tided me over. But like then I got it. I was like, I don't understand this. And I maybe beat the first palace and then like didn't know what to do. And so like having the challenges broken down into this though was a lot of fun. I haven't done the final challenge, but like it let me like play parts of the game that I never made it to and like actually be like competitive at them.
Yeah.
I don't know. What's your experience with this game?
Well, campers, if you've listened through our Legend of Zelda series where we did an in-depth discussion of every single episode of the Legend of Zelda animated series for some reason, alongside our chat on Breath of the Wild, you'll have heard me go at length about how important Zelda 2 is to me as a young gamer. It's a very difficult game. It's also very let's say esoteric. There's a lot to kind of figure out on your own, and the challenge it just immediately spikes. It gets so difficult so quickly that it repelled a lot of gamers who should have given it a better chance, but the game was just too hard to be fun.
I don't know how intentional it was, but I think some of its difficulty may have been a result of being released in that short window of like Nintendo's sort of like 900 number hit line that you were like meant to be calling, which we'll talk about in the Wizard. Because there's a lot of stuff in it that's like even more hidden than the original Zelda, or even more like hard to like break through. But back to the game list, Mario 2, the original Mario 2,
the Japanese Mario 2,
we didn't get until it was the Lost Levels in Mario All-Stars in the US on Super Nintendo's here. This is, I think for me, is the most difficult of them, because the physics of Mario and Luigi are they're different from the original game and different from each other, and I don't have a lot of experience with it. So like when you go from Mario 1 like to this, you're like, oh my god, like your brain trying to recalibrate is very fascinating. And then the final game is Kirby's Adventure, which actually I think this is the hardest. I don't know if you've messed with Kirby's Adventure much
It's
yet.
an absolute banger. I love Kirby's Adventure.
As a game, I agree. I think there's
challenges are
but the challenges, the controls, like if you accidentally even like hover above the up button, all of a sudden Kirby just starts doing this really slow floaty thing. So as a speed run challenge, it's just like so hard. There's like one in here. I just lucked out and got an S-class rating on like one challenge, and the rest of them are like, I'm struggling to get past an A, which is, if you're like a semi-seasoned gamer, it's like it's pretty easy to get A's in these. But that's all the games that it has so far. I'd love if they like update this with either new challenges in the games, because I feel like one thing that it could use is just give me the game and just time me running through it. would be amazing.
Sure.
Like
sure.
Mario 1's the only one I found so far that it's like just speed run the whole game. And on top of that, what it does is there's no way to turn this off. Is that like as you're playing it, if you like mess up, if you die, or if you go a route that's not the optimal route, it rewinds you and says you can't go that way, which is very interesting. It seems like it's something that they could very easily just like give you an option to turn that off, because now it's like if this is your version of speed running, is using this game, it's like there's always going to be an asterisk next to your best time, right? Because it's like, well, like if I died, I didn't have to start over. It just rewinds me at 2 seconds or whatever.
Yeah. It should be said that this is not the first time Nintendo's made this type of release.
Yeah.
Back in 1990, when the original Nintendo World Championships occurred, there was a cartridge that the participants were able to take home with them. And it was unique from other NES cartridges because it had these little switches on them that had different game modes, I believe. I don't know. The reason I don't know, and because I've never handled one of these, is because the most recent sale of one of those cartridges, it was $180,000.
God, I thought you were going to say 180.
So, there's a little bit of a... we'll just say there's a class war being waged on campers who can't afford to spend, oh my God, almost $250,000. Okay. But this is not new for Nintendo, but also to talk about why I don't think I like this very much is because this collection of games is possibly one of the biggest reasons why Nintendo is cracking down on emulation so hard.
Oh, yeah.
And like they want to protect their IP, obviously. And now they're finding ways to release stuff that no one's buying.
Come and take my server, bitches.
I know. Try it. Come into my basement full of video. Anyway, but I see this almost as like a purgatory, where you're stuck having to perfect a single thing over and over. It's like being an animator making a cartoon that's never going to be seen. And it's there for you. And if it brings you joy, then thank goodness. But otherwise, if you're like me and like, I like the full game experience. I like, when I started playing games that have save states or that have like instant rewind, like through the Switch Online, perhaps, I found myself basically playing NES World Championship, where it's like I need to perfect this mini game, or I need to perfect this boss fight.
You mean like you use those rewind features a lot?
Rewind a lot, go back. That's how I beat Zelda 2 for the first time.
Yeah, and that's how, if I ever get to it, that's how I'm going to do it.
Yes.
I'm not going to play an original cartridge where I got to go all the way back to the beginning and lose all my experience points after I lose 3 lives.
There's a reason they don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
There's a reason Zelda games became very, very much like, oh, you have infinite lives because there's no death really. Yeah. But, well, there is, but it's really just
very forgiving.
It's just more of a slap on the wrist than it is, getting a swirl.
Yeah, like at this point, like Totke, it's like if you jump off a cliff and die, you go back to the top of the cliff,
Yes.
It's like your punishment is a load screen.
Yes. Totke. It took me a second. Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah.
We haven't really talked about what's this new Zelda game that was announced a couple weeks ago?
Oh, the one where you get to play as Princess Zelda.
Yes, Queen.
I forget.
Princess.
I forget the name, but I'm very excited about it.
Zelda's in charge.
Yeah, it's in the style of the remaster of Link's Awakening.
Yes.
Which is like a diorama toy box type thing, which is perfect for that world. Yes. I loved it. I blasted through it in like 10 hours and never thought about it again, but the entire experience was like, this is beautiful.
The Link's Awakening remake? You played that? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah. It has some technical problems, but it looks beautiful. Anyway.
So, Josh, what's your favorite game to speedrun in this World Championship? Or not necessarily speedrun, but like what was your favorite set of challenges?
I'm probably going to say like Mario 1, only because it gives you that option at the end of like just speedrun the whole thing. And like I said, like Just like before bed a few nights this week, I'd be like, just let me just get a run in,
Sure,
like
sure.
it's like, I know it takes me, 7 to 10 minutes and then I'm done. And that's like where I agree with your critique. Like I was saying before, it's like, it should be once you've unlocked the challenges, just give me the game.
Yes.
And like and let me play it the way it's set up, where it has my fastest run is replaying on one side of the screen. And then my current run is on the other side. So I'm like racing myself, but like, don't do this like rewind, punish me thing. Just like actually punish me, send me back to where the game would send me, take off the training wheels. Like, I feel like that would make this a much better experience overall.
Raise the stakes.
Yeah. And like, let people do it like real speed running.
I noticed something. Have you tried to
just
employ,
like a real speedrunning trainer,
Speaking of like real speedrunning, a lot of real speedrunning relies on some glitches. Have you attempted to exploit any glitches while doing this?
I did actually on accident. I did one in Mario 1.
Was it the negative world?
No, I don't know what that is.
Oh, go ahead.
The one I got was in World 4-2 in Mario 1, which I won't bring up on screen because it takes too long to get there. But like, you jump over this big pit at first, and you can clip through like this wall of bricks, which I did on accident somehow.
Yeah.
That's the only sort of like glitchy thing I've done.
Did the game stop you and say you can't do that?
It did not. The thing that frustrated me the most that it stopped me on and said I could not do it, which we'll talk about in the wizard in a minute, is
the whistle.
The fucking whistle.
I know, that blew my mind.
In the first castle of Mario 3, I'm like, this is the speedrun route. What are you doing stopping me from doing this?
I'm so glad that we're both on the same page with this, because
I think I did it on stream and just like started screaming at the TV.
Like, that's the whole point.
I was like, that's what brought me to this game, was seeing that moment in a movie that we're about to talk about, and being like, oh my God, speedrunning, this is so cool, when I was like 5 years old. On the topic of glitches though, I've been watching this week YouTubers who are known speedrunners of Mario. Have been like blasting through this game. Like, you're talking about it not having like a lot of staying power. Like, there's a few Mario speedrunners that I watched this week that just did like a 4-hour stream of S-Class on everything.
Yeah.
Like, I'm done.
Yep, beat it.
But like, one of them was like, found like there's a glitch in Donkey Kong where the first ladder,
if you go down it.
Yeah. And I think
it works.
It works.
It does work on that one.
Okay, did you do it, or did you find
that one actually?
Oh wow, that's cool. I don't know. Did you find any others that it let you get away with?
So I'm a lot of these glitches require, as you said before, like pixel perfect.
Yeah, like the guy I watched had to practice it for like 2 or 3 minutes before he got it.
I think if you've been a listener of this show, you probably picked up on the fact that I am not that guy.
Yeah, neither of us are. I'm an enthusiast, again, of like games done quick. I follow some of these guys on YouTube, but yeah,
there's a great collection of a speedrunner who's got all these glitches down, like for like games throughout this library. In Metroid, there's one that I don't remember if this one works or not, but there's a door, like so you shoot a door to open it, right, in Metroid, and then if you stand in the door when it closes, you can then jump up through the wall, and it'll help you exploit like because Metroid's all about find the weapon that unlocks the next area, and that's how they turn what could be an open world game into like more of a floodgate type style, or what's the word I'm looking for? There's a lot of they funnel.
I just think
you
of like breaking it.
Yeah.
Breaking the route.
But a lot of specifically a lot of the Mario glitches, Nintendo knew about them, and they specifically cut them out. Because there's one in The Legend of Zelda too, where like speaking of Link's Awakening, I remember like one of the first glitches that I ever remember taking advantage of on the Game Boy, the original release of Link's Awakening, was a screen skip, where as you're moving to the screen, to the next screen over, if you press select and then you take it off or something along those lines, you'll skip.
Like
you'll just,
if you go like back and forth really fast, I believe is what it was. Something like
It's
that.
been 25 years since I've done it,
Yeah.
but like it was something like that where you could then just like completely skip an area. And I was like, holy cow. But then I soft locked myself into an area where it just didn't make sense. Anyway, the NES edition of the Nintendo World Championship. What's the short way of calling that?
The title is so bad.
Yeah.
Nintendo World Championships
NES
Edition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What? Like
There's a funny clip of me on stream, like trying to say it and just like just garbling the words over and over again.
That's right. And if you missed the live stream, you can listen and watch Josh do all of his attempts. Patreon.com/GameVideo. $5 a month. You get access to Josh's gameplay footage.
We have a good
it's
time.
Awesome. And commentary for every single episode of the Legend of Zelda cartoon series.
Sean does handwritten notes. I do mine on live on stream.
It's a great combo.
Yeah.
We're such a good team.
It works well together. I do want to talk though about like what I feel like Nintendo did very well in this game.
Yeah. Plenty.
There's a lot to love. The aesthetic is very I don't know, this sort of vaporwave nostalgia. It's not something. I'm not one of these guys who's like, I want to live in my childhood forever.
Yeah.
Kind of people. But like, this is the right aesthetic for this game.
Yep. This was made for our generation.
Yeah, and like I love that like. So I'm looking at settings right now, and for online, you get to pick what they call a hype tag. And then they have all these just like cute little phrases they put together that you can use to represent yourself. Mine is that I chose was so if you play against me online, my little hype tag will be read every player's guide, which I was like, you know what? When I'm playing on stream, my old Nintendo powers and player guides are right behind me. It's
That's
like
right.
the one like goofy collectible childhood thing that's still in my home. So
Thank
I was like,
God
let's
it's
go with
not
that
Funko
one.
Pops.
Yeah. But then there's all kinds of other stuff. Like you could say what generation you are: Super NES, Nintendo 64, Game Boy Advance, raised on arcade games, expert button masher, aspiring game dev, self-proclaimed game master. There's some really funny ones in here. I want to see if I can. Princess Zelda's #1 fan. Link's the Bomb. I almost chose Link's the Bomb.
Rescued by Peach.
There's #1 at something probably.
The tone is right on spot.
They really like let themselves sort of do a very cute tongue-in-cheek tone with the game overall. Like a lot of the challenges have really silly like pun names. Once a reset button for life is probably the funniest, darkest one in the hype tag options.
If you could just blow into my life's cartridge, that would solve a lot of problems.
And then the other cool thing they do that like this is also shown if you're playing online against people is your favorite NES game, and you can go through the entire NES roster, every single game.
Xenophobe. Like, I love Xenophobe.
If it exists, it's on here.
Man.
I chose Wizards and Warriors because I feel like that was kind of the standout game for me as a child that I played on NES the most that like nobody else had like had or had heard of.
Is that where you're like jumping around trees and stuff?
It's like a action platformer, like adventure kind of thing. Like, yeah, you're jumping around trees. Each level is like a different like kind of ecosystem, and you get like items that give you different powers. It's a more like action oriented, like Zelda like.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun with that game.
Yeah, shout out to my buddy Ben who gave me his copy of that. It was a fun one.
Yeah, and they do this weekly World Championship challenge, which I think is really there's things I tweak about it, but what I love about it is like it made it so that this game is something that like I can and maybe will for at least the next several months, like just check back in on Monday and play my weeklies for like 10 to 15 minutes and just see if I can like improve my times to get a rank, you know? We'll see, because I think it's probably going to shore up pretty quick that there's going to be like the top couple thousand people are always going to be the people who did the absolute optimal route, you know?
Absolutely.
And so it's going to be hard to like break through a certain level, but like it ranks how you did amongst, it looks like about 55,000 people are playing weekly at this point, which I don't know if that counts as a success for them or not.
I know. I think they'd like some extra zeros maybe at the end of that, but
I don't know how many copies this sold, but you know, there's probably a lot of kids who just don't have Nintendo Online that maybe bought it and are trying it out.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they did a little better on sales than that, but
it should be said that like there's a pretty impressive physical release for this where it came with a gold cartridge. I assume the cartridge is not actually a working NES cartridge.
I would doubt it.
No. I would assume it's probably like you can fit a Switch, you know, what do we even call them? Card? Like the little
They're
SD
cards.
They're just SD cards, right? I don't know. It looked great though.
Yeah, because the average physical Switch game is so unimpressive that they have those huge boxes and you open it up, it's just a bunch of dead space with a tiny SD card inside. Yeah. I've never bought a physical Switch game for that reason.
Oh, you see, like I rarely download games. I love having physical.
I'm just counting on emulation being available eventually if like my access to Switch, like the online store to get my games is ever revoked, like they did to the DS I know a few years ago.
Yeah.
But the where do I see my results? I'm trying to go through like the weekly championship results. So it saves your ranking. I don't know if it'll wipe this out when this week ends because we're on the second week, but like it saves like your best playthrough, and it does this like Spotify Unwrapped style like reveal. Which I think is a lot of fun. And the thing I love the most about it is it gives your rank overall. I don't think I did so great at 14,800 out of the world. I don't know. But then it does your rank by birth year. Which I kind of love that, like, because that's like who you should be competitive with, given we are the age demo.
We're the Nintendo generation.
Yeah. But it's interesting to see that out of 50,000 people, that only 2,500 other 30-year-olds played. Well, my birth year's on screen if you're on YouTube, but I like that it breaks it up by birth year. I think that's a lot of fun.
That's a really interesting decision.
Because like if you're a teenager playing this, like you're probably not going to be as competitive with people our age who've been playing these for hundreds of hours since we were kids. So just like there's just so many little details like that I think they did really well. The game is so snappy. Like if this had any load time to it, it would be an absolute failure.
Yes.
You know, because like when you're doing a challenge and you make like a tiny mistake, you're like, fuck, I want to go back and fix that like really fast, right? So like the only wait time that you ever run into if you mess something up, like I just messed up, I hit Z, whatever the bumper buttons are called, and it sends me back to restart. It's just immediate back to the 3-second countdown and I'm starting over. If it wasn't that snappy, like this game would be a failure.
Instant gratification.
Yeah. Like because that's like what this is all about, is just like shaving off hundredths of seconds at a time once you get good at it, which is my other reason it's so appealing to me, is like as a high school swimmer,
here it is.
That was the obsession.
Yeah.
Like when you start to get like towards the top tier of people, you know, usually it's like by state is who you're competing with. Like you are competing to take off hundredths of seconds to like rise in the rankings. And interestingly enough, like I don't know like what it's like now for like high school swimmers, but we were in high school in the early 2000s, and for whatever reason, somebody was maintaining a statewide ranking of like the top 50 to 100 or whatever.
Oh, they need to be on a watch list.
Probably. But like, and you would go check it like week to week and see how you were doing. And this like gives that same thing back. Like that was like that's like early internet stuff to be on top of in the early 2000s, which, this gives me that same vibe where I'm like, I could shave off a few more hundreds. I gotta optimize like this jump. And like, being able to do the same thing I did in high school swimming with video games from my couch now that I'm an old man who cannot swim, like a 50 freestyle in 21 seconds anymore. Like, it's fun to have something that gives me that back.
Well, that explains why it smells like chlorine and you're wearing a Speedo right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was thinking about what other games this collection reminds me of, and specifically Super Smash Brothers had these challenges in between fights where you would have to destroy the balloons or whatever it was with your character, and on these like little maps that really was basically just like a speedrunning challenge. And Nintendo's been aware of the fact that like once they introduce a game, people have a natural drive to perfect it. I mean, I think that's what the bigger conversation about the Nintendo World Championships NES Edition is that human drive to achieve perfection.
Yeah.
And what it does for the brain, for the soul, for the heart is it tells you, hey, you're not wasting time. You're improving.
Yeah.
It's a positive, you get a little bit of a feeling of satisfaction and accomplishment in something that is you could say this is also like it's just leisure time, but it's also like futile.
Yeah, I honestly feel like we're gonna run our episodes probably out of order. So we talked about Tetris already, but that's gonna release after this.
Coming soon.
Some of what you said, like Tetris does for you, is like what this does for me.
Yeah.
I like this, just like I'm purely focused on this one thing. All outside distractions are gone.
Flow state activated.
Yeah, I can get flow statey with some of like the bigger challenges in this. I can get a little too into it where it's like, oh, I messed up that one little thing. Start over.
I'm stupid. I'm fucking stupid.
Yeah,
I'm so
I get
stupid.
a little hard on myself, but it still does a lot of that same thing for me. And I hope they keep expanding on it.
Me too. I'd love to see what other games they would choose to include if they did so, because I mean the games that they included all make pretty good sense to me in terms of like they're all first party Nintendo games, I believe.
Yeah.
And what what do you think there's any glaring omissions from this library?
From NES, like I don't know. I'm not like a big NES head. I'm the kind of person that's like, I could admit to the improvements that happened from the NES to the SNES, and that like some of this doesn't hold up great. Like, I'm thinking about like Zelda 1, especially as a speedrunning challenge. That like just the fact that you only have 4-direction control alone is so hard. Yeah. And then like I remember when I kind of was first getting into like just streaming for fun a few years ago, I played the early Zeldas back to back. So I played Zelda 1, then I played Link to the Past, like back to back, like immediately.
That's fun.
And
I remember when you did that.
Yeah.
I remember watching that.
And like, I like instantly when you start like controlling Link in A Link to the Past, I was like, oh my God, this feels so good comparatively.
Diagonal movement.
Like, so I don't really have nostalgia for this stuff because it is so clunky.
Yes.
But if this game hadn't come out, I would never have any urge to speedrun anything about Zelda 1 because it just doesn't feel good to control to me. And that's why like Mario 1 and basically the Mario 1, 2, 3s are like the ones I'm going to go back to the most in this collection, because they feel the best. That's where they had controls down the best. So like, I'm really more looking forward to a SNES edition. I don't know like what the good games would be besides Super Mario World, which like I've always sort of done speed runs just for fun of. That's like the one thing I've ever been like, yeah, I'm just going to pick this up and just do a run of it every, I don't know, maybe once or twice a year.
That's what I would always associate with you as like if Josh is speed running anything, it's probably Super Mario World.
Yeah. That's the one that I'm like, oh yeah, I've had a sort of loose time in my head of like this is how my time for Super Mario World. I don't know what else I would want though on SNES, but I hope we get it.
Super Metroid's a natural decision.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the most speed run.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Sped run.
Sped
ran.
Runs sped.
Runs. That's the it's any collection of speedrunners are gonna have somebody's gonna have a time on Super Metroid.
Yeah.
It's a fun thought exercise, and I'm sure Nintendo is paying attention because like when you go to the comments on videos talking about this collection of games or anything, you already see people saying, well, I can't wait for the Super Nintendo version. It's like, no one promised you that, but it might happen.
Right. Well, the fact that they called it NES Edition and not just Nintendo World Championships is okay. Then please give me next year. I'll spend another $30 for an SNES version.
I think at the end of the day, it's like, Josh, do you believe that you got your money's worth out of this game?
I 100%.
Yeah.
Like, I'll say 95%.
Yeah.
Because those critiques that I had, the like actual professional speedrunners that like I watched this week after I had all those critiques already, they brought up almost the exact same things of like, just give me the whole game and one last note on that is like they do this very, very like lovingly crafted thing for the hardest challenges. You get what they call classified information, which I'm going to pull up on screen for any viewers.
I love this.
And they pull original artwork like from the like manuals. It's very like Nintendo Power style layout. It's like, just give me this, but don't punish me for going the wrong way, Yeah. And just give me the whole game. If they had done that, I think this would have been like a near perfect release. Or give me more challenges from the games people are playing the most, your Marios and Zeldas and Metroids, and just cut like Balloon Fight and Ice Climbers.
Those are the two games on this list that I've had the least amount of fun with.
Yeah, I have zero interest in Kid Icarus, Ice Climbers, or Balloon Fight. It doesn't make me feel like I'm not getting my money's worth, but like I'm just like, I have no interest in getting better at those.
There's a little bit of filler in this collection.
Yeah. And like, again, like I would look forward more to a Super Nintendo collection where I feel like just controls overall are tightened up. I feel less like there's just like less jank in controls in Super Nintendo games that like sometimes you can feel a little cheated in these, where it's like, my thumb slid just a little bit too much to the up button and now Kirby's floating, like I said earlier.
Okay, brainstorm other games that would work for the Super Nintendo version. Super Mario Kart.
Oh, absolutely.
F-Zero.
Yeah.
Star Fox.
Oh, yeah.
The thing.
A Link to the Past.
Like, obviously.
Because now, like, I never thought about Zelda as a speedrun game until like I saw these little micro challenges, and I love the breaking down of the micro challenges. Like I would never think about like, oh, how fast can I bomb this rock, from this position until they set it up for me like
Spectacle rock.
And now I'm having fun with it,
There's okay, I think a
Donkey
majority.
Kong Country.
Oh,
I know how much you love Donkey Kong Country,
especially the cartoon.
Those being developed by Rare, I don't know how that like licensing would work out.
I would assume that would not make the cut. There's I think the majority of the games in this library are available on Nintendo Switch's online NES platform.
Mm-hmm.
I can't vet specifically if Ice Climbers or Balloon Fight, or I'm pretty sure Excite Bike is on it. But that just thinking out loud, like the people who bought this game collection probably have access to the NES library on the Switch.
Especially because this is very much designed to be an online game. That comes with.
And again, like I'm typically like a single player, like just I like playing. I like to be alone. I like to be quiet and silent, and I don't like to talk to people for days at a time. And that includes online.
Yeah.
But there's a lot to celebrate about the NES library, and this collection has given you a reason to look at them with a fresh set of eyes.
Right.
Like it's not just the priority, because like if I start up a game of the original Zelda, which I do probably about once a year, I'll play through that game.
Mm-hmm.
And when I do, I'm like, okay, strap in, let's go save Zelda, like do the whole thing.
Yeah.
And like that's daunting. I am no master of that game.
Yeah.
I am a very casual player for it, but I've played it enough where I'm like, okay, I know where to go. I know what basically to do. And having these challenges was a lot of fun. I think out of the library of games in the Nintendo World Championship NES Edition,
terrible name.
I had the most fun with the Zelda stuff because it reprioritizes what I'm doing. And it's not just about like, I would often like reset a game or at least like, do that rewind trick with the online version. If I lost a heart and I no longer can shoot my sword.
Yeah. Or what I mean? Those gosh darn Dark Nut guys.
Oh, love them.
I hate them so much.
Love them. There's I don't know. I got a lot of joy out of playing these games with a different set of priorities. I think that's what this did the most for me. And to be very frank, I had the most fun playing it next to you when we were
that was a blast.
Actively competing, because I'm typically not a competitive person.
Yeah. But
it brings it out. And this is something very personal to me. I'm like, I've always identified as like, oh, I'm a Nintendo fan. Like I've always loved like, and I think I've made this association before is like Nintendo equals leisure time, which equals dopamine, which equals being happy for once.
and like, I think on top of that, like we were playing challenges of games that like, I don't think either of us would consider ourselves like an obsessive of like Donkey Kong or something. We're playing like a Donkey Kong challenge.
Yeah. And
like, I could pretty easily get like the ranks go A plus, S. It's like we're both getting in that A to A plus range on just like a casual on the couch together playthrough, and it's competitive.
And it feels so good.
Yeah.
It's just like I'm like, oh, I'm among equals right now.
Whereas like if I play with like my girlfriend's 8-year-old, she's just gonna get frustrated of like, what is this? It looks ugly. How do I move the guy? So it's like, it's honestly makes it fascinating. They put so much like love and attention into something for such a niche audience.
Yeah. I love annihilating children at video games. Like playing with my nephews. Like I just like, I do not hold back and I want to ruin their day.
Nah, I'm more like, I like watching them discover sort of an adventure for the first time.
You have a much more paternal instinct than I do.
Yeah. Like, my nephews, I played Chrono Trigger for them like a year or two ago.
God,
and I was like, this is the
so
closest
good.
I'm ever going to get to playing it for the first time again. And like a few weeks ago, and my girlfriend's daughter picked up, it's really funny. Like if I give her a day with my Switch, and you know how it puts your most recent played games?
Yeah.
All the Mario games have been dabbled in over the course of like 2 hours.
Of her doing it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that rocks.
She's been working through Mario Odyssey the most, but like she picked up Mario RPG a few weeks ago.
Chef's kiss.
She's maybe a little young to like get attached to the story, but it was still fun, to like see her like meet Malo and like et cetera, et cetera. So like, but like if we play something competitive like Mario Kart, she just instant frustration, too much stimulation.
Yeah, I want tears. I want to make a kid cry.
It makes it. I hate it. I hate doing that. Like I'm like, you can practice it on your own. If you get frustrated, we're gonna turn it off. That's kind of like the way we treat those more competitive games with her.
Did you ever play Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga?
No. Yeah, I didn't play any of the like those sort of like spiritual successors to Mario RPG.
Really fun, really funny game. Very like a just general recommendation. It's one of those Game Boy Advance games that I think like transcended the console and like should have had a proper release as well of like a home console release and not just a handheld release. It was that good.
Well, there is a new one in that series coming out, and it's being developed by Monolith Software, which is the developer that was formed when what's his name, Tanaka, the guy who made Xenogears, left Squaresoft to make Monolith Soft.
Interesting.
So that's I don't know if he's involved, but it's very curious. So they've made all the Xeno series, and Xenoblade is the current Switch like series by that company. And for whatever reason, they chose them to make the newest Mario Luigi like RPG game that's coming out soon.
Right on. More of that stuff. I love Mario RPG. And then you know what? That's a game I've never beat.
Oh, dude. If you've never beat it, get the remaster. Just blow through it in like 6 hours. It's fun. It's cute. It's beautiful. It's very well done remaster. That's I don't know. That's kind of all my thoughts on the Nintendo World Championship.
Yeah,
NES Edition. I'm pretty happy about it.
Listen up, Nintendo. I want more of this type of stuff. I want to celebrate the retro games that made you who you are.
Yes, but don't punish the people who don't want to pay to buy the game for the 10th time.
You know,
let us have our ROMs.
I think this should have possibly been like. I could see this, like, if Nintendo wants to like attempt some like altruism, like make this a free release, like
make it just part of the Switch Online.
Like we're Switch Online Pro members or whatever it is, where we have like the expanded library of games, not just the NES and the SNES. Like, you know, that's a different pay tier that you can, you know, get like the full collection.
I think the only difference is like you get like Game Boy and N64.
And Sega, I believe, as well.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? We're paying a little bit extra for a little bit more. Give us a little something, because like I think we've criticized the strange choices that Nintendo's made in their online like console releases.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there's like for the NES, they release untranslated Japanese games that require reading. That's
bizarre to me.
It's a bad choice. Or this is something that I brought up that I wanted to talk about for the show, but after I watched, it was an animated film from the late 90s called Quest for Camelot. And they released a Legend of Zelda derivative style game for the Game Boy Color, and nobody's asking for this. And I watched the movie the day that they released the game. I was like, I'll watch this because, like, you know, by God, I'm a junior camp counselor here at Camp Video Games, and it's my duty to see if this is worth talking about. No, absolutely no. Maybe in a few years when we run out of ideas, but
it'll be a while. There's a lot of good stuff.
There's a lot of good stuff. Yeah. So I don't have much else to say about this.
I'm totally with you. Like, the more I think about it, it's like when I was commenting on like how good and snappy like the UI and the UX are, it's because that's, aside from choosing challenges in these games that people have already played to death, like that's the only development that needed to happen. In this, right? It's a pretty low effort, not like they put the effort in, but it's a low investment, low labor investment to develop something like this compared to a big AAA Tears of the Kingdom.
They're serving us leftovers with some fresh.
So
parsley.
It's like, I know like my membership, it pays to keep like the servers for online play running or whatever, but like, come on, Nintendo, you got more money than God. Like, just throw this into the membership I'm already paying for. Yeah. But also I'm like, as somebody who like, I have disposable income for video games at this point in my life, I was like, $30. I bought it like the second it came out. I had a blast. It's whatever. I'm not like super mad. My only real anger goes towards like them being litigious about taking down like ROM sites and whatever. Cause it's just like, so we've talked about this. Well, I guess now if we're changing episode,
it doesn't matter.
Exactly. Like, so many games just are not available retail, or like the backwards compatibility of like digging out my NES of like something that my parents already paid $70 for my Legend of Zelda cartridge back in like 1989 or whatever. It's just like, come on, man. Why don't keep charging me for the same thing over and over again? Yeah.
Absolutely. Nintendo, thanks for the memories.
You are my number one frenemy.
Okay, let's shift to our discussion of 1989, The Wizard, starring Fred, that boy on the screen Savage. He was in everything in the 80s.
Yeah, Fred Wonder Years Savage.
What would you do if I played Nintendo really good? Yeah. Would you exploit me and take me across the country?
Yeah, which I'll say out the gate, this was one of those rewatch kids movies in my house. It was probably more my decision than my sister's.
Sure.
But I think Fred Savage being in it was helpful because the Wonder Years was like one of our, like before The Simpsons was our family viewing on Sunday nights. It was the Wonder Years.
Same. Yeah. I think our family had very similar media consumption habits.
Yeah.
Fred Savage is not even really the hero of the story. He's just the most famous one.
Right. No, Jenny Lewis is probably now the most famous one.
I don't know if I was walking down the street,
I wouldn't recognize her, but in terms of still having a career, I think Jenny Lewis is probably bigger.
Sure. But in 1989, Fred Savage is the man, the boy.
Yeah, right. He's the one that's like selling this as a kid's film of like, hey, it's that kid from Stuff. Although I don't even know had Wonder Years started in 89.
I assumed so, but maybe
because I think
at this point he was at least in The Princess Bride.
Oh, that very good point. Yeah. I forgot he was
the kid who made being sick look awesome.
I forgot about that because I'm just not a big Princess Bride head the way our generation is. Yeah.
Oh man. I think it's
although all shouts out to Wallace Shawn, Socialist King. Anyway,
there's I think it's not a hot take to say that people who like absolutely adore The Princess Bride can be pretty annoying about it. It's like musical theater people where it's just like, I don't want to listen to fucking Rent, but props to you. If it brings you joy, then hooray.
It does look like we were a season into the Wonder Years at this point.
Cool. So yeah, hardest working kid in the world. Okay. If I was to describe the Wizard in a elevator pitch, it's Rain Man meets the Karate Kid meets Crossroads. Not the Britney Spears Crossroads, but the Ralph Macchio Crossroads. You familiar with that movie? Have I talked to you about that one?
Yeah, I know that movie.
Yeah. White boy learns the blues.
Right. Yeah.
But it's a road trip movie. It's a
weird road trip movie.
It's a weird road trip movie. It's a weird movie. It's a weird idea. And Siskel and Ebert hated this movie.
Interesting.
They gave it, I believe it was 2 thumbs down for this one. It's got a very low like Rotten Tomatoes score. It's critically panned.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a lot to love.
I want to talk about like, cause we were alluding to it in our discussion of Nintendo Championship World Edition, NES Power, whatever. Like the way I saw this movie as a 30-something adult versus as a child is so funny to me. Like I texted you after I watched it a few nights ago. I was like, I cried 4 times.
And while I'm watching it, as I was watching, I was like, where the fuck did Josh cry at this movie?
So
I don't have feelings like
right. Yeah, I'm a soft boy. I'm like that. But like as a child, I'm just like, it's a movie that has Mario in it, and you get to see video games on the screen, and that's all I cared about.
That's a huge deal.
As an adult watching it, I would describe the plot as a young boy keeps running away from home because he has PTSD from watching his twin sister drown, and he is
hilarious
on a journey to memorialize her by taking a lunchbox full of mementos to the last place he remembers his now separated family who split up because of the drama of that. He wants to leave the mementos at the last place he remembers them all being happy together.
Yeah.
That's what the movie's about. And then there's some video games like strewn throughout.
So
it's wild. It's wild how like much emotional depth is crammed into this like kids road trip movie.
To contrast with your viewing experience, where this was in heavy rotation at the junior counselor Josh house.
Yeah,
I've never watched this before. I was aware of the Power Glove. I love the Power Glove.
Yeah, it's so bad. Everybody, like, people meme the movie.
It's a heavily memed movie, and I was aware of the scene where you see the warp whistle location in Super Mario Brothers 3, which was like mind blowing. I feel like
that's how I learned where that warp whistle was.
I was only aware of that when I first got the internet, and when that, like, I was a preteen by the time the internet came around my home, and like I'm seeing like that being alluded to, and it was like watching it as a 30-something was this movie was not what I expected at all. I thought this was going to be way more video game centric, whereas that is totally ancillary. It is completely on the side. It could have been anything. They could have been hustling cards or doing anything else, and it would have made the same movie, except less of what the critics hate this movie because it is a unapologetic advertisement for Universal Studios, for Nintendo, for Hostess. It's a strange, you know, the tradition carries on proudly today in our product biopics, like the Tetris movie, which you'll hear about later.
I know, like this is nothing compared to what we have now.
Oh yeah,
which is part of why like that stuff does not bother me at all in watching this movie in 2024.
Massive shout out to the Internet Archives. You can just watch this online for free, not in great quality, but whatever,
good enough.
It's fine.
I mean, I want to talk about like, because you're talking about how critics panned it for that reason, but like the idea of revealing Super Mario 3 and how to get the first warp whistle in a film is actually like, I mean, I hate marketing, but it's a brilliant fucking marketing strategy in 1989.
Oh, Nintendo didn't raise no fools.
Like this is they knew like what will happen is like kids will watch this movie. They'll tell their friends on the playground, oh my gosh, I saw Mario Brothers 3 and there's this whistle that you can get to like warp you. And it's like in the first castle, but like they're not going to be able to describe it very well. So that's going to send more kids to the theater to see the movie because they're going to be like, I want to see how to get the warp whistle. Yeah. I think that's a brilliant marketing idea that like you can't match in it like today because everything's on the internet instantly before it's even released.
Absolutely. Oh yeah. Okay. So, interesting and a little tidbits here. It takes 15 minutes before we see anything video game related in the Wizard, which is an interesting choice. Because if this was made today, it would first frame would be video game related. You'd be honing in on the fact that the character Jimmy, who is the wizard, he's the titular wizard, not Fred Savage, but his younger brother.
Yeah.
In a modern movie, they would start the first scene of him disassociating, playing video games, ignoring his family problems, and going from there to establish the fact that he's a savant, he's absolutely incredible at video games, and that's what this young boy is good at.
Yeah.
Whereas instead they started with him. This is like it's like cut. Do you ever see El Mariachi?
No,
the Robert Rodriguez film. It starts with the same shot of this lone wanderer on a desert highway.
It's also
so stylized.
Have you seen Paris, Texas?
No.
Also, like Paris, Texas is like one of the most beautiful films, and it came out 4 or 5 years before this. Also starts with a unknown man wandering through the desert in a baseball cap, carrying a suitcase. I think even like. I haven't seen the movie you're talking about. You said it was a Robert Rodriguez movie?
It's the prequel to Desperado. The Antonio Banderas and Salma Hayek movie.
Yeah. Great
stuff. Robert Rodriguez, if you want like a crash course in indie filmmaking, watch the cut of El Mariachi with the director's commentary, because he's going to break down how he did every one of those practical special effects for as little money as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Back to the Wizard, though.
Well, I staying on this, just like this opening, man, because even like thematically, it's quite in line with Paris, Texas, which is about like a man estranged from his family, like, and they have to just like find him out in the wilderness. And again, it's like this opening desert shot. Like you're opening a movie this way is like it makes you like lean in and go, what's going on here?
This is a child in danger right now. Like that's the interesting thing, is that like this child. The titular wizard, Jimmy, he's basically non-communicative, except he just keeps repeating the word
California.
I saw a great post of that clip of little Jimmy going, California, California. And they were like, Anthony Kiedis as a child from the Red Hot Chili Peppers writing his first song.
Mm-hmm. That was like, just saying California like that was sort of like a jokey meme between my sisters and I back in the day. I just like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna show you.
Oh, Harry Dean Stanton.
Harry Dean Stanton in the opening of Paris, Texas. I'm just pulling it up for Sean and the YouTube viewers. Like, it's not shot for shot, but aesthetically the exact same idea. Like, this movie, again, it's you know, I forget who directed this movie. It's the cinematography is a little, you know, they've got a little stronger eye for, you know, how to use the landscape or whatever. But it's so funny to me how similar it was to the beginning of the Wizard.
Just thinking about Harry Dean Stanton for a second, I saw a great interview with him and David Lynch, and they're asking Harry Dean, they're like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "I'm nobody." Like, God, I was like, "What do you dream?" He's like, "I don't dream. I just have nightmares." It's just like, I feel like he was like playing up like the fun existential like snobbery of David Lynch, but like being sincere. Yeah, and interesting. Let's get back to the Wizard.
Yeah,
because actually this looks like a good movie. I would watch.
It's a fantastic
Paris,
film.
Texas.
One of my all-time favorite movies.
Is there a video game adaptation?
Now I'm just cutting back to the Wizard. It's just so funny. Like how similar it is.
It's funny. I mean, this is an easy shot to make. Like it's a very, 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 very simple idea for cinematography.
But I mean, moving forward though, like you said, we don't see a video game for like 15 minutes. Yeah, I think I even did the same thing. I think I even stopped and looked at the clock when I first saw a video game.
God bless you.
And I honestly feel like this movie, it does a pretty decent job showing versus telling, like overall. Yeah. Like and I didn't really follow the plot as a child because of that reason, because of like how, I don't know, it's decently acted. I mean, we got Fred Savage, Beau Bridges, Christian Slater, Jenny Lewis, like just this like powerhouse of young, like people early in their career, working on this just like ho-hum throwaway product placement store, like movie that somebody decided like, I'm going to go hard on the emotional core of this.
Yeah. It's, this is Christian Slater before he started doing his lifelong Jack Nicholson impression.
Yeah.
And
it's still there a little bit.
He's a little bit there, little guy.
Yeah.
So this is an interesting kind of road trip movie where it's not only that like we got to get to California, but we're also running from like a child bounty hunter. Like, or he reminds me of like a Nazi Jew hunter. That's just like, he's like, my specialty is finding kids.
Right. It's like, weird.
It's a weird little subplot there where
my connection is and mentally is like the frog hunter they hire in the Muppet movie.
Oh yeah. What do you do?
Or it's
kill
like,
frogs.
Again, it's the same idea. A road trip movie. We're being chased by somebody who wants us back where we came from for ill intention. And especially thinking about like what the state of mental health was in the period this was made. Like we see early on in the movie, they're just like, he's just fucked up. We got to lock him up. Yeah. Just like one side of his family saying, I believe it's his mom and his new stepdad.
Yeah. His stepdad, who's like the shitty, yuppie, like insensitive, not paternal figure who's just like, I don't know, this kid's costing me too much money. Let's lock him up.
Like he's just too hard to deal with. Let's lock him up in an asylum. And it's funny going into it. I assumed like the movie was going to be all about him being on the spectrum. I didn't remember any of like the PTSD, my sister died stuff.
Yeah. Like
really caught me off guard because in modern parlance, you'd be like, oh, he's very good at video games because he's on the spectrum.
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
which like they could have made more connection of like, oh, they're a good escape for him. Like they do a little bit of that with like, oh, he likes to build things.
Then he should be really good at Tetris. Like there's so many ways that they could have integrated video games more into Jimmy's story. Mm-hmm. Because right now it really is just a Rain Man thing where it's like where they're like, the brother is like, wow, my brother's so good at this particular thing. Let's make some money off of it.
Let's make him a hustler.
Yeah. And also, okay, so as we get through like the plot of this movie, like it's all about like Fred Savage wants to support his little brother, Jimmy. I think, okay, Fred Savage's character's name is Corey. We're going to call him Fred Savage.
Yeah. I had no memory of anybody's name besides Jimmy.
So
I just like, I kept literally throughout the movie. I like I said, I cried like 4 times. Also, this boy is just like the sweetest like eyes that you'll ever see.
Yeah.
For a kid who's monosyllabic through 95% of the movie, you're just like, Jimmy.
Poor little Jimmy.
Poor Jimmy.
He kind of looks like the banjo playing kid from Deliverance.
Yeah.
Just that like kind of like blank faced like savant again, where like it's just like, you know, because like,
but like kinder.
Have you seen Deliverance?
I don't recall, but I know the character. Yeah.
Yeah. And that where they're showing like, here's this child out in the middle of the wilderness, or at least in like super rural America. And the stereotype would be that he's like, oh, he's just some dumb hick. And like, you know, what's he know? But then when he starts playing the banjo, you're like, oh, he's a genius. Mm-hmm. And that's what this is doing, except with Ninja Gaiden and like Double Dragon.
And the location is so fascinating, like because they're from Utah, right?
Yeah. Beautiful country.
Which is, it's beautiful, but it's like, because it's Mormon country, like we don't think about it really. You know, it's just like, oh yeah, they're doing their thing over there. I've never seen a story set in Utah other than this movie. Like until I rewatched it, like as a kid, I had no concept of like, how far are they going? Where are they? Like, none of that tracked for me. I was just like, California. Yeah, he's trying to get to California. But like, there's something just like weirdly alien about a road trip through Utah.
Interesting.
You know?
I was lucky enough to go camping in Utah about a decade ago. Mm-hmm. And that was my first time ever out west. And it just blew my mind. I was just like, this is God's country. This is like the most gorgeous landscape I've ever seen. These mountains. Yeah. And it's just like, you're in the desert, but there's snow-capped mountains. And it's just this strange, like, diaspora.
Yeah. None of this feels like when you think of like somebody like, what's America like? That's not what this movie looks or feels like, in my opinion. It's very interesting. And I like kind of captivating, like, again, in terms of like how it's visually presented, I prefer Paris, Texas, which is again one of the most like beautifully captured, like wide vistas and landscapes and color I've ever seen on film. But this is still like, this is new and interesting to me, what I'm seeing.
Yeah. There's a lot of talent behind the camera here. There's the script itself is I'm typically not the guy that's like plot hole. Yeah. Like there's certain aspects where I'm like, that doesn't make a lick of sense, but I'm going to let that slide just because I'm having a good time watching.
Yeah. Like I want to talk about like just this one little scene of like, I think it's when Christian Slater's character and Beau Bridges decide like, we're also going to chase after Jimmy, but like, we're going to be nice about it. Like they run through their yard and it's like chain link fence with a yard with hedges, and in the distance you just see vistas of mountains. I don't know that landscape. I've never seen anything like that.
We're Midwestern boys,
right? I know the Midwest, I know the coasts, I know the South, but I do not know this version of the West. And like I've been to New Mexico, which I've been to Albuquerque, and like even there, I did not see I only saw like the desert part of it. Mm-hmm. So this is just like weirdly fascinating to me to see on film.
Fun little slideshow of the variety of this great nation.
Yeah.
So there's really like the ticking clock for this is that in order to make a bunch of money, what's the money do for Fred Savage? Are they like, you know, if this was like the Goonies or something, like, you know, that like, oh, if we don't get the money, then the house is going to get foreclosed because they're going to eminent domain or a highway through our front yard or something like that. With this one, it's just like Fred Savage is just a capitalist. He's just like, let's make some fucking money, baby.
I don't know. Cause he's just like wants to support whatever reason his brother wants to go to California is my understanding of his sort of like call to adventure. When Jenny Lewis comes along,
she's the street savvy that like, she's like she introduces like, oh, like your brother is so good at Ninja Gaiden and Double Dragon that we can enter him into the video Armageddon competition in Los Angeles.
Yeah. And
Los Angeles.
We do get shown like what her financial stakes in this are.
Yes.
Like she has like a rough home life in Reno that she wants to like either save her mom's trailer or move to a nicer one or something like that. Whereas these guys, they could have introduced maybe, I don't know, it probably would have been too complicated in the script, but like maybe introduce like, oh, the mom wants to just lock him up in asylum and dad wants some sort of more intentional care for Jimmy or something that just is more expensive. I don't know. Like it is hard to understand the financial motivations of Fred Savage's character.
Yeah. But so the stepdad, he's obviously like he's painted as an antagonist in this, where he's like, oh, I hired a bounty hunter to find our dim-witted son, like, my dim-witted stepson, in like very unkind terms, and like just like he's dehumanizing this child, and he's like not at all sympathetic to the conditions that led him to his current state. And the mother character is almost completely nonverbal. She's so meek to the point of like, she's like villainously meek.
Yeah.
She has absolutely no backbone.
Just like fix this complication of difficult child by any means necessary is kind of her only motivation or whatever.
And then the true father, is that Beau Bridges?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's great. I'm not that familiar with him as an actor, but he was an incredibly likable on-screen father.
And like, I did connect with like it's a very silly arc they send him through. Like he's sort of a little bit of the comic foil, like that he cares about Jimmy more than the mom.
Yes.
He doesn't want Jimmy locked up.
No.
I think, and he and Christian Slater, the oldest brother, are traveling, following them, but carrying their NES with them.
Yes.
Which I love.
It's so charming.
Like they're treating the NES as if it's this portable road trippable console.
Well, it's funny because they'll stop at like an auto mechanic shop and then just hook up their NES to some random TV.
Yeah. And the dad, Beau Bridges' arc is like, I think it starts with Christian Slater's character is like, I can't sleep. I'm going to play some Ninja Turtles.
Hell yeah.
Which was like that's an interesting licensing dance to
because that's a Konami game, I believe.
It's a Konami game. It's an intellectual property that's not Nintendo's own. Lots of weird, curious. I'd like to see. Speaking of the Tetris episode we're going to run in a few weeks, what was the licensing story behind making the Wizard?
Oh boy.
But anyway, the dad then is like,
don't give Nintendo ideas. They're just going to make a horrible biopic about this.
Yeah, but then the dad, when he's like, let me try that. And it turns out the dad stayed up all night playing Ninja Turtles. And like by the end of the movie, I think he even says, I'm a changed man. Like he's come around to the idea that video games are good.
This has given me an extra life.
I love it. I'm so here for it. It's so stupid, but I love it.
I think, again, in a more modern film, at the beginning of the movie, Beau Bridges' character would be like, you damn kids in this video game, it's ruining your brain, and now it's all this stuff. And then he gets into it. But it was never really that. It was more just him just being like, Christian Slater, what are you doing right now? Yeah. Like you're just you're just gonna play video games? I gotta sleep. I gotta drive. I gotta eat donuts while driving. It's so I hated watching him eat while driving. It was very gross. And for some reason they're driving around the country in a pickup truck with a tree in the back because he runs a landscaping service. Oh, I hate watching him eat.
I'm it's weighting it down in case you have sudden stops when you have to go through the icy mountains, maybe. I mean, my dad does that. He weighs his truck down in the winter. Like, don't you do that? Don't you have a truck?
Yeah, I do have a truck, but I don't do that.
Yeah, but like, what was I saying? I want to also talk about like Jenny Lewis's character. I already for the YouTube viewers, I already showed her reveal in the movie.
Yeah.
That like I've not seen this movie since I was a child. So she did not have a career at that point, right? And
this is obviously pre-Rilo Kiley.
Yeah, and so like she's revealed she's reading a Cosmo and like pulls it down when she like notices the boys like having money trouble. One of them's good at video games, and I was just like, there is something so enigmatic about this child actress. I'm like, who is this? And so I immediately started IMDbing. And I saw Jenny Lewis. I was like, that can't be. And then it was like,
the Jenny Lewis.
It is the Jenny Lewis. Yeah. And she, for what they give her in this movie, is very, very good. Because the things people love to critique about this movie, you alluded to earlier, of like, a continuity of that part of that game is not, so who fucking cares?
Yeah.
Like,
that's not the important part.
And like, you know, at the end when they're in the competition, she's yelling, "Get the whistle, Jimmy! Get the star!"
How the fuck does she know about the whistle?
For a game that she's never seen before. And like, of course, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, she does a really good job with what they give her. The character's very strong, and like has a very strong like backstory and motivation that like I was all in for it.
Yeah, no, wonderful performances. I am typically the person who will like I hate child actors.
Mm-hmm.
I hate when kids act. I don't like it. I because there's a lot to think about, and like, how did this kid get in front of this camera?
Yeah.
Was it his decision? Was it their parents? It was the parents. Oh, and like all, you know, like no kid is like, oh, I want to start working right now.
Yeah.
And like that always bothers me. And also then like children actors are always, not always, but typically are very bad. Just not good performance. But they got some wonderful performances out of these preteens.
Yeah. And like, I'll compare it to like, I watch a fair amount of like modern Disney live action slop, again with my girlfriend's child. It's abysmal. Like, it's so just like, there's just nothing there.
Yeah.
And like, again, this is like a product placement movie that somebody like wrote the hell out of for some reason. That like, there's just something about the acting and the performance of these child actors, which again, it's like, we don't love the concept of child actors, but like, it just holds up really well. They feel very real, or as real as they need to feel. Whereas like the Disney stuff that I see with the, the little Chibis, is like, it just feels like disposable plastic garbage.
Yeah.
Like I would, and it sucks that like, her and the rest of her generation, like just Gen Alpha in general, the stuff they're consuming has destroyed their attention span for this type of film. Like, I could not show her this. She would not.
No. It's too slow.
Like, I'm thinking even when she's like 10 to 12 years old, she'll be like, this is stupid. Why are you showing me this? I tried showing her the Muppet movie, and like, she just did not have the attention span for it.
Breaks my heart, man.
Yeah.
But
maybe that one we might be able to do in a couple more years.
To be fair, even people in our generation are brain rotted enough where they can't do this anymore. Like,
none of it's like, that's just a generational thing. Like, these kids have been in front of screens that are like just trying to rotate fast slop through their brains as fast as possible to keep them viewing, to keep them buying products, which this is.
Yep.
This is doing the same thing. But like, there was somebody behind it was like, no, I want to make an actual movie out of this.
Sure. So I'm glad you brought up the Muppet movie again, just because like that is the perfect road trip movies in the 80s. Really hit hard. Pee-wee's Big Adventure, the Muppet movie, Crossroads, The Wizard, like et cetera, et cetera.
And we'll say Rain Man again.
Rain Man. You know, I've never seen Rain Man.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a long time, but it's good. I mean, there's plenty more examples, but there was something about road trip movies. I think the mystique of the road trip has been taken away by the fact that like we can all get anywhere by just pulling our phone out and going, oh, okay. Like there's no challenge to getting anywhere, even for a child. Like, they could figure out with, a phone, like how to like, okay, my parents' credit card is plugged into Uber, drive me 300 miles to wherever you like.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
There's so like this movie really just like the joining of Jenny Lewis and Fred Savage and little Jimmy is that she basically like, let's pool our resources and we'll get to California.
Resources and like talents and
once we enter Jimmy into this video game competition, we'll split the money. And that is the incentive for what's Jenny Lewis's name?
I don't know. I only remember, other than Jimmy, I only remember everybody by their actual names.
Haley. Her name's Haley in the movie.
Yeah.
You already said it, that like she has she wants to save the family trailer, I think, or save it or to upgrade, something like that. Back when a portion of $50,000 would be enough to secure a home. The 80s.
Yeah.
So they're going across the country, and the thing that shocked me is that like it's never been propositioned to me like, hey, you're pretty good at these video games. You want to put some money on the line?
Yeah,
like that's they make a lot of money doing.
I loved this scene where they're at like some bar and they meet these businessmen who think that they're better than a child at video games.
Yeah, but unfortunately, in this case, they don't show you what video game they're playing.
Yeah.
And I thought that was like a missed opportunity. Just like,
I wonder if it's like they showed it and then they were like, oh shoot, we didn't get the proper licensing to show this on screen.
Because like if I were to fill in the narrative blanks, I would say that these old guys, they're really good at like asteroids or like something of
maybe
their
Donkey
time.
Kong.
Yeah. But like then little Jimmy, who's the savant at like modern games for the time, like he's also a master of the arcade classics or something like that. Or I feel like we should probably make mention of the Who, the pinball wizard.
Pinball wizard.
That's got to be he's a pinball wizard. There has to be a twist. Like
there's one minor feature of pinball in here when the child predator guy. He's like shaking down kids at arcade.
Oh yeah, and he tilts the game for them.
And he like there's a kid playing pinball and he just like picks up the table and like ruins the kid's game.
I think that's called tilting.
Yeah,
when the machine recognizes that it's not level anymore.
Yeah.
But that's like I forgot about that aspect where it's like the Who has an entire musical about basically the same thing. Or I let's see.
All I know is he sure plays a mean pinball. I don't know.
Ever since I was a young boy, I played the silver ball. So Brighton must pay them all. I ain't seen nothing like him in any amusement hall.
Dang, you're doing this too well. We're gonna get copyright stricken. Anyways, they continue on.
It's a great opportunity for like. For kids specifically, it's if you're a child watching this movie, this is the allure of like let's say like the Boxcar Kids series of books, right? Where it's like runaways living on their own terms, doing adult stuff but maintaining their childhood edge.
Yeah, that's a huge appeal for kids outside of the video games in this film. Yeah.
Video games, it could have been anything. It really didn't have to be video games for this story to work. It could have been, he's great at poker. I guess that's just Rain Man again, but there's a lot of video games that make I guess we'll say cameos in this movie.
Yeah.
Double Dragon is the first game that we see. Ninja Gaiden, Mario 2 and 3, Rad Racer, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Rad Racer was an interesting show.
Rad Racer was a great.
Rad Racer, first Squaresoft game I ever played.
Ooh, fun. Castlevania 2, Simon's Quest, Mega Man, Metroid, Contra, Zelda 2. There's another one. There's a couple other games that I couldn't recognize.
There's this racing game when they shake down the teens that later then like shake them down and steal all their money or whatever.
Yeah.
That one I don't
RC
recognize.
Pro-Am.
Got it. Okay.
And what else do we got? Oh, it was Mega Man 2 actually.
Oh, I didn't remember seeing Mega Man in here.
Yeah. And they and China Gate. There was this random arcade game that you see at one point that and again, like if I had watched this as a kid, I think it would be very much in line with your experience where I would be watching this over and over and over again because back in the day, before we had instant gratification technology, Like you couldn't just see video game footage.
Oh yeah, I'll refer back to the little chibis in my life that is always on her iPad. She doesn't have Minecraft. She watches Minecraft videos all the time. Anytime she can get her hands on YouTube or like Mario, like weird Mario videos, like where I'm like, oh, I'm sometimes I'm like, oh, there's actually like really cool like Mario Maker levels you could watch people play, but she'll watch these like weird cut ups where somebody like makes Mario do like weird stuff, like, oh, he farts down the flagpole, like dumb. I hate it, but like, and sometimes she'll show me because she's like, you like Mario, and I'm like, yeah. But yeah, like she can just look up any game and see footage of it anytime she wants. Whereas for me, like there were some games in here that I didn't own. I don't know, like Ninja Gaiden was probably one that I remember only getting to rent sometimes, or Rad Racer was another one. Like our friends had it, but I didn't have it. So getting to see it was exciting in this game, or in this. And in Mario Brothers 3, of course, was huge because this revealed it to the US.
Huge deal.
And maybe this is a good point to like talk about the ways they tied in Nintendo like products and marketing pushes of the time, because we have, of course, we already talked about like the introduction of the character Lucas, who has the Power Glove, and talks about
he's the guy who has all the games,
and they talk specifically about, was it 79 licensed games were out at the time or something like that?
He's like, I've got all of them or something along those lines.
He brags about he has all the games.
He's got goons.
And later, like Jenny Lewis's character even follows up about like Jimmy's training. She's like, all right, we've got him trained on like 60 some of the 79 games. They make a point to say how many games are available.
It's interesting.
Several times. We see the Power Glove,
it's like in a gun safe. It's so funny.
I get it. Like the Power Glove ended up sucking.
Power Glove
is a product
I
placement.
had one growing up and it sucked.
Yeah. And if the movie was this wall to wall, I agree, it would suck. But there's so many other interesting things going on.
The human element.
Works. Yeah, there's so much character and humanity and like real shit being dealt with that I'm like, it holds up as a kid's movie pretty well. But we also get, I don't remember where it is in the movie, but I want to say it's like they're studying Simon's Quest or something. And she calls the Nintendo hotline. Yeah. Where they show all the guys like in their cubicles with their Nintendos and their guides.
So as a kid, that was the job I wanted.
Right.
I wanted to work the Nintendo hotline. I thought that was like, that's the best case scenario.
Yeah.
What an amazing time to have a weird customer service job.
Yeah. So that's in here somewhere, but, and then the other big one is, it's weird that they call it Video Armageddon and not like the Nintendo World Championship. Yeah. That's another thing. It's like, I don't know the story behind that.
Neither do I.
But it is my memory of what the Nintendo World Championship was, because esports weren't a thing. It wasn't broadcast on ESPN, the Ocho back then, like it is now. Right. But it's a thing that happened. And for some reason they called it Video Armageddon in this. And that's the kind of thing that's like, I would dream of being in something like that.
You remember Nick Arcade?
Yeah.
Nickelodeon's like arcade. Yeah. It was basically the same thing where it's like 3 contestants playing games competitively. It was a wonderful time for TV.
The funny thing is, like, I remember even as a child, like being frustrated by that, where what they would do is it'd be 2 or 3 rounds of like head-to-head competition on an NES game or something like that. And then the final thing was this like green screen like thing that it's like there's no way to practice
you
for
cannot be good at that.
Right. And that frustrated me so much. I hated that part of it.
We'll do a more in-depth look at Nick Arcade later. Not in this episode, but that's down the line. I would really like to revisit that.
Yeah, like and they don't mention Nintendo Power by name, but they do at some point, I think it's actually where they find the Video Armageddon ad is like the quote unquote game guide.
Yeah.
So it is odd to me, like when they chose to like feature Nintendo as a property and when they didn't. It's curious.
There must have been a very, very tight line of like, can we like either they had to individually license all these Nintendo products to like do it. So they're like, okay, we cannot mention Nintendo outside of these bounds.
Yeah.
Or, you know what? That's just not that interesting.
No. Yeah. What is interesting to me is that we're halfway through the movie when these teens that they've hustled catch up to them and like rob them, and they bust open Jimmy's lunchbox, and like that's when we find out the core of like what Jimmy is all about. I think you're asking me to look for a certain part, but I don't know which. Anyway, I'll keep talking about this. This is like, I don't know, this might be the first time I cried. This is how they reveal, instead of like telling you at the beginning of the movie, oh yeah, Jimmy's fucked up because his sister died. We get that like this reveal of his lunchbox gets busted open and it's full of pictures and mementos of her
and her like baby shoes.
Never worn.
Oh, I didn't realize Ernest Hemingway had a writing credit on The Wizard.
But yeah, so like and then that, because Jimmy is monosyllabic or just only says California or whatever, it gives Fred Savage a reason to tell the backstory to Jenny Lewis's character.
It's not just, as you know,
and I know it's really well done.
It's good screenwriting. Good screenwriting.
And this is like the first thing that broke me is like, oh, he's not like, they're not just being like, isn't it weird that he's autistic? You know, like there's actually like a core traumatic thing that is making him locked inside.
Okay, so is this tally number 1 of the cry meter for
I think so.
Counselor Josh?
I don't know. I don't know, but this was definitely one of those well, and like I think it was like twice in a row here. The first, him getting beat up because I'm like, this poor sweet boy.
Yeah.
I think I related too much to this character.
Yeah.
Just like as my own childhood. And then like the reveal of like why this lunchbox is so important to him is, I was just like, oh my God, Jimmy.
Protect this boy at all costs.
And I was like, I will defend this boy with my life.
Yeah.
And you don't get it till halfway through the movie, but there's enough breadcrumbs that you're curious beyond Nintendo product placement.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an incredibly compelling way to make this somewhat robotic character have a soul, because otherwise he's blank faced. He doesn't have that many like moments of like emotion being shown. He's very much a robot.
And it's funny, I'm going to refer to Paris, Texas again. That's like, up to this point, our connection is like, he has these just like deep but kind eyes, like Harry Dean Stanton in Paris, Texas, who doesn't talk for like the first 30 minutes of the movie. I'm like, they had to have been like influenced by
it. I would actually accuse the Wizard of almost plagiarizing certain movies.
Like either the director or the screenwriter or both had to be like, let's do a children's version of this movie.
Yeah.
And I don't know, moving along, like they get to Reno, which is where Haley is from. And like, that's the background of like why she's so good at hustling.
Yes.
And like, she has like connections there. And that's like another nice thing is like, they're being chased by this creepy guy. The
child hunter,
like the weird, like Nazi Jew hunter guy.
Yeah.
But they're meeting like kind-hearted, people along, like adults along the way.
Yeah.
Who are normally we're meant to identify as the more rough and tumble, like
specifically Spanky, the
I
trucker.
Love Spanky the trucker. Like, so they meet like an army of truckers who defends them, a bunch of bikers, you know?
Oh, but okay. So at one point, Jenny Lewis's character Haley accuses the child hunter.
Oh my God, it's so good.
Molesting her.
It's so fucking
She starts screaming, he touched my breasts. He touched my breasts. And what this guy says is, she doesn't have breasts. That shocked me.
That line was like inappropriate, but like defining of the character, right? You know, like probably not great for a children's movie, but like it really helped settle this guy's a creep. We do not want him getting a
we see him like strong arming kids throughout the entire movie, and we see him, you know, puncture the tires of the dad's truck, and like, you know, he's a piece of shit. He's you know, I mean, he makes his living by chasing down children. He's like he's a goblin monster. He's a bad guy. Yeah. And he gets his due. He gets his comeuppance, and it's great to see, like, yeah, you put it perfectly. Like these like typically rough and tumble types of character archetypes, then displaying extreme like altruism and like showing their humanity and like doing the right thing just because, you know, because it's being asked of them. It's a nice, you know, nice.
Fun fact, just because it's on the screen, I didn't capture it, but one of the same early challenges of Metroid in the Nintendo World Championship NES Edition game, the Ascension, this thing where you just have to jump, was featured on screen in the movie. Yeah. Anyway,
I mean, this is the reason we're talking about the Wiz, is because you know the NES World Championship. Or no, I'm sorry, Nintendo World Championship NES Edition it made us start talking about the Wizard. Like, it's just, did you ever see The Wiz? The what is it? The
adaptation like, of the
Wizard of Oz. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I don't know. What else is there to talk about as their road trip continues?
Okay, they get to the Universal Studios.
Yeah, that's why I was wondering if we should jump ahead to that.
Oh my God. Okay. I have such fond memories of Universal Studios around this time. Like early 90s for me. I think I was probably 5 or 6 the first time I went. And the King Kong ride was a life-changing attraction for me. Like, it introduced me to the idea of kaiju, where it was just like, holy shit, big monsters are awesome.
Yeah.
And the ride was the same basic thing where you're in a cable car and King Kong's attacking, and like you're face to face with this gigantic life-size animatronic King Kong.
Yeah.
And this movie preserved that experience for me, and like that's something I'm actually grateful for. Like,
right,
I've been trying to find footage of it.
Yeah,
and I did not expect it to be in The Wizard. And when that moment came, like that's the closest I got to crying, where I was like, oh my God, like a part of my childhood is preserved in this that I did not expect to recover.
Yeah, which like you mentioned, like Siskel and Ebert and people panning it for these things, that it's now become a piece of preservation.
Oh yeah,
that like. I loved the scene because my memory is only just seeing like on Nickelodeon constant ads of like, your family needs to go to Universal Studios. Look at this amazing King Kong ride.
Splat City, baby.
And I would see clips of that King Kong ride all the time. And this is the only other time I've seen it in my life. And they're like it, they actually use like the footage from the ride. They shot it on set. And like you get to see this practical effect of it's weird because it's a practical effect in the movie, but it's also the ride, you know? But like, I was just like, oh my God, like we said this about, I forget, I think it was like the original, the Tomb Raider movie. We're going to talk about that. Like that, the first one still used like actual sets, practical effects,
beautiful sets,
pyrotechnics. And like, in this, they're running through the ride and you're seeing like what I assume were the actual like pyrotechnics that were being used on that ride, the actual like hydraulics that moved the King Kong around.
It's incredible.
The actual stage lights. Like,
I'm actually surprised that they show us this because like,
it's
for
really
a kid,
cool.
It kind of kills the magic,
you
know, but like, it's such an impressive ride, and I wish they still had that attraction. Like that's the real,
and like all those rides now, when you go to theme parks, it's like, sit in this box. We're gonna show you a movie that this box moves around with and gives you a headache.
Did you do the Simpsons ride?
Oh, it gave me the worst headache.
Yeah, it was nauseating.
I needed like 3 Duff beers after that. I did. I went with one of my college friends last time I was in Orlando to play a show in like 2015 or 16, and I forget if his wife was working there. I feel like we got like cheap passes because he lives there, and like he was like cool with whatever because he'd been there a bunch. So it was like just whatever I wanted to see. So we did like the Simpsons ride. It was right after Diagon Alley had opened.
Yeah.
And we did like,
I went around the same time.
Yeah, like the break into Gringotts ride. And I was just like, just those two, I was like, my head hurts so bad. Like, I can't do another one of these. So then we went to like the Hogwarts thing, and like all the cool practical effects are in line.
Yeah.
So like we went to the Hogwarts ride, and I was like, can we just walk through the line and skip the ride? So that's what we did. There was like a secondary line that like they just let me walk through and just look at all this stuff in the Hogwarts castle. And then when we got through, I was like, I'm good. Okay, I'm out of here.
That's great. This is very smart because like that's what Universal Studios is a great time, and we're not being sponsored by Universal Studios or by
really?
anybody. But like the waiting in line, usually it's liminal space, right? It's like a nothing place.
Like I think of I used to go to Cedar Point a lot as a kid.
Yeah.
And it's just standing in the heat.
Yes, exactly. And Universal turned that into something fun.
Yeah.
And I'm sure.
And that's like where the actual practical fun experience is for me.
Yeah.
Because it's not in the ride itself anymore. It, like we said, it's just, here's a movie that a thing is moving through. And it's like, okay, like it's not that much. It's actually worse than a regular movie for me because it gives me motion sickness.
Do you remember that? This is not going to turn into it. Do you remember the Universal thing? But like, you remember the platform 9 3/4 where there's that mirror gag where it looked like you were walking through solid brick?
Yeah. Like
such a fun experience.
Like that kind of stuff, just like do that well. And then I don't know, maybe it's a cost thing, but then just build an actual roller coaster and I'm happy.
Yeah.
I can't do roller coasters anymore.
That's okay.
I'm too concussed too many times.
I've seen too many like news stories of catastrophic failures of roller coasters at this point where I love roller coasters, but I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm good. I don't want to die upside down or covered in some. I heard this one news story of like a guy got diarrhea
and just shit all over everybody.
And he shit on 80 people.
That's amazing. Yeah, my experience at Universal was we did those two rides. And then there was one actual roller coaster that I was like, let's go on that.
Yeah.
Because I can't do any more of this, like watch a video and be shaking around shit. It's just, I hate it. And my sister, my oldest sister is like a weird Disney adult.
Yeah.
And like goes all the time. And like, she's like, you got to go do this Star Wars thing. I'm like, no, I'm good. I really don't want anything to do with it. Partially because I don't want anything to do with Star Wars anymore, but also because like, those rides do nothing for me except give me motion sickness. Yep. Whereas like actual roller coasters, I hear your complaints, and my modern complaint is just like my body can't take it anymore. But I loved them when I was young. Yeah, like it was like there were like series on, I want to say like Discovery Channel where they would like every few months there'd be like a new roller coaster show of like, these are the biggest roller coasters in the world. And me and like my sisters would like dream of going to them sometime. And living near Cedar Point, like we got to go on some of them, you know, when we were like teens and young adults, and they're amazing. But again, my body can't take it. And it's a shame. Like the world's just not going to build real stuff like that much longer.
That's true. Yeah. I grew up next to Kings Island, Paramount Kings Island at the time. And I ended up working there in high school.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I sold lemonade and cotton candy outside of Hanna-Barbera land.
Yeah, did you know my boy Ronnie? He worked there around the same time and loved it.
I gotta say, I did not make any friends while I worked there. Except for Alicia. What up, homie? But I got a little like overexposed to roller coasters. Where it's like I'd get off my shift, I'd be like, I'm just gonna fuck around and like ride roller coasters all day. It was like the end of my childhood where it's just like, okay, like I'm about to like get really interested in way different stuff. Yeah. But at that point I was like, okay, let's just overdo it, get it out of the system, and now I'm good.
Yeah. I'm kind of that way too.
I think at this point in my life, I'm much more interested in like I love like haunted house tours or like those types of like, you know, the scary costume guys break through the wall with a fake chainsaw doing that stuff. That's a lot of fun for me. I like that type of experience way more than getting shook like a can of Coke.
I like enjoying a 30 to 40 hour adventure with well-written characters in a video game on my couch at this point. That's about as adventurous as I like to be anymore.
I like smoking.
I like a good Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
I like smoking like a disassociative amount of weed.
Yeah, and that is included, yes. Yeah. But back to the wizard.
We get to see the dinosaurs where Jimmy makes his trip to. Same ones from Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Oh.
Do you ever have a dream, Pee-wee?
Well, you know what's funny is because watching this movie, well, I want to go back to Video Armageddon for a minute after this, sure. But like, it's funny because when I was watching the movie and they go to the dinosaur place, in my memory, I was like, didn't this happen at night?
Oh.
And the reason is because
Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
I'm mixing it up with Pee-wee's Big Adventure, where they're sitting on the dinosaurs at night. Yeah, but
Andy. Andy. God damn, I miss Paul Rubens. I wish he was still alive. Yeah. I wish he'd live forever.
Yeah, he's the best. But yeah, the Video Armageddon Mario Brothers 3 thing, everybody likes to make fun of, like, oh, how did he know where the warp whistle was? But like, it is a big fun spectacle.
Dude, it looks like the Video Armageddon like spectacle looks like what the Foot Clan like child slave like headquarters is from the first Ninja Turtles movie. Remember that? Where like there's like, you know, little, I think the boy's name was Danny who gets like, you know, he gets involved with gangs that just happen to be ninjas. Yeah. And then like, you know, you go and there's like kids like skateboarding, and Sam Rockwell is just like, you want regular or menthol cigarettes? And that's just like, this was what like the idea of like, this is like kids only, like,
yeah, like it's a cool aesthetic choice of like this, what they built on this soundstage for this. And like, it's funny to like sort of make fun of like, this is not how you would actually run something like this. Like I do like to have a little bit of a laugh about like, they're playing Mario Brothers 3 with a giant joystick, you know? Like, oh man, did you ever have like a friend or whoever like who had like a joystick for NES or Super Nintendo?
I did. Power Pad, or not the Power Pad. What was it called? Like the Joypad or something like that. Yeah. But yeah, it was the
miserable.
Big square gray with big red buttons and a joystick. It was miserable. It was absolutely not a good way to play Nintendo games.
Yeah, that's like one of the things that I kind of remember watching this as a kid, like, and like seeing this part and being like, that would be so hard to play with that joystick. Because I've played at my buddy Will's house who has one. It's impossible to play anything with the joystick. And yeah, like I think it is clear product placement, whatever. She's yelling, get the star, get the whistle, and it makes no sense. But like, it works as a climax for the movie. And like I said at the beginning, I think it's a brilliant piece of marketing, even if I hate marketing. It's smart. It is what it is. And we get the like, everybody's like stories are resolving as he's playing Mario 3. Like, I think it's overall, it's just pretty clever, the way it all comes together here. It's funny to like watch their dog shit skills at Mario 3. But alas.
Yeah, I'm way better at Mario than these dumbass kids.
And that is the back to the Nintendo World Championship NES Edition game for Nintendo Switch. The final challenge for Mario 3 is unfortunately just beat World 1-1, not the whole game. And like we said, if you use the strategy that Jimmy uses in this movie, that is probably a lot of people's like mental connection to this type of competition.
Absolutely.
You get punished and you have to go back, and it drove me insane. I hate it. Just let me get the whistle in the World 1-1 challenge. Please patch the game. I don't know. That's kind of, I feel like that's everything I feel I need to say about this movie.
I would recommend this movie. If you've not seen it, it's Chef's Kiss. It's 100 minutes long.
Oh, it's perfect length.
Yes. It does not overstay its welcome.
Nope.
It's well paced. It's a captivating story with like these kids have high stakes and they're like going across the country and they're doing all this fun adventuring, and it in terms of like a movie directed toward kids, it did a good job of keeping my attention. And I did not feel like it wasted my time, which I think is the greatest sin that a movie can do, is where you watch it, then you go, oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, and I'll reiterate, like, there's an emotional core to it that a lot of children's movies these days either don't have, or it's like, I don't know, it's like feels very hacky. It feels very forced. That I think it's like, if you have a child who's like the right age and attention span that you think could handle something that's paced, a little less chaotic than the TikTok generation or whatever, like it's a good family movie still.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I assume it's rated PG.
Yeah. There's like I feel like there's like one cuss in it somewhere that I don't remember. But I don't know. Yeah. I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
I expected it to be wall-to-wall dog shit when we went in.
Yeah, it got some genuine laughs from me. I gasped a couple of times. I didn't cry, but I don't have a heart. Overall, I'd say it's a worthwhile time. And again, shout out internetarchives.org. Support that website. Protect it at all costs.
Protect it. It is our most important asset.
It's our
left
library.
In this world.
It's our Library of Alexandria. It is. Like, if something happens to it, like, so much important information is lost, and that's a nightmare to me.
Right.
So
ditto to everything about the Internet Archive.
Well, campers, that's our talk on the Nintendo World Championship NES Edition.
Nailed it.
And 1989's The Wizard. If you have any requests on film adaptations of video games, give us a little comment there in the comment box, or send us an email, campvideogames@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
And if you like what you heard and you want even more, go to patreon.com/campvideogames.
Yeah, I will say I'm not going to run through our whole list.
No, I don't want to do that.
But I do just want to place, because we did it on some other episodes, I'm putting this number 2. I like doing it. I have fun with it. I'm putting this at number 2 behind, I'll say number 3, behind Fox in Space, Advent Children, and then The Wizard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, everything Sean said, like, subscribe. We've already recorded a bunch more episodes for this sort of, I'll call this the intermission season, because we're not doing a long game yet.
Listen, man, life is chaotic and it gets in the way of your passions. Who cares?
Yeah, no, we've got some fun episodes in the can, and they'll be rolling out after this. So we'll talk to you then.
Thanks, campers.
If you'd like to write to us, send a message to campvideogames@gmail.com and follow us on Instagram @campvideogames. If you want to become a real happy camper, you can support Camp Video Games on Patreon. For $5 a month, you'll be granted access to even more discussions about movie-based video games, game-based movies, full-length commentaries, playthroughs, and more. Whether you sign up or not, we're glad to have you here at Camp Video Games.